What are some of the pros and cons of living in Southeast Asia? This is a question that you may have been asking yourself for some time. And if we take a look at YouTube, there's a real shortage of YouTube videos on this subject. Today I'm going to give you 5 pros and 5 cons of living in Southeast Asia. Things that I have personally experienced during my time in the tropical paradise. The first pro of living in Southeast Asia is that you're going to have amazing purchasing power. The high purchasing power that you have in Southeast Asia is uncomparable, it's unmatchable to anything you've ever experienced. As you probably know, things are cheaper in Asia. Employers pay people less money. Employers pay employees less per hour in Asia. So consequently, you have greater purchasing power. And you can see that, let's say you want to get a massage, and you can see, wow, it's only $5 an hour or $10 an hour. Or back home, it's probably $30 to $50 for an hour massage. This is drastic. It's a drastic change in the quality of life that you're going to have when you live in Asia. Haircuts. You can get a haircut in Asia for as little as $2 or $3. Not that I need one, I'm perfectly fine. The high purchasing power really translates into everything, right? It's not just the massages, it's not just the haircut, it's food. You know, if you need an electrician, if you need a plumber, if you need anyone to do any type of service, you need anyone to perform any type of service, guess what? You can have it done in Asia at the fraction of the cost it will cost you back home. Let's say you spend $60,000 a year in California, right? This is not a big amount for you to live in Southern California. In fact, it would be not enough to have a comfortable life. However, if you take 10 to 15% of that money and you moved to Asia, well, guess what? With $6,000 to $9,000, you're going to have at least an equal quality of life in Southeast Asia than you had back home. One of the cons of living in Southeast Asia is that you'll probably get food poisoned. Sometimes. It's not going to happen every single day, not every single time you eat out, and for sure not at the same place, because you're smart, you're going to learn, okay, I got food poisoned at that food court, I will never go back there. However, food poisoning is part of the game. It's just part of Southeast Asia, and it's because, you know, a lot of the foods that you're going to eat, you're going to consume, you will have them outdoors, and guess what? It's very tropical, you know, it's humid, so bacteria builds up faster, and sometimes worse things can happen. I'm not saying that you're doomed to experience food poisoning all the time. However, I want you to get mentally prepared that it is a real possibility. And the longer you live in Southeast Asia, the bigger the possibility. In fact, the possibility will turn into a very high probability that you're going to get food poisoned sometime down the road. There's a ton of expats and digital nomads living in Southeast Asia. I do know that the current pandemic changed things and a lot of expats and digital nomads moved out of Southeast Asia. However, there's still a lot of them left, especially the ones that are like on a long-term visit pass, you know, they have some kind of a long-term visa. Those people are still in Southeast Asia, and you know, many people lived in Southeast Asia for so many years that it's very difficult for them to leave. And whenever the region should open up, whenever the region should get back to normal, then if you go there, you stay in any of the hotspots, you know, digital nomad, the expat hotspots, any of the major cities, or any of the very specific locations where those people hang out. It is just a phenomenal experience, because the amount of friends that you can make, the amount of quality relationships that you can build in a very short period of time is almost unheard of. It's unseen, and it's uncomparable to anything you've probably experienced in the West. If you want to have a decent sized, you know, digital nomad or networking, you know, entrepreneur type of community in the US, there's very few places where you can go to and probably find those people. Austin, Texas is one of them. Southern California and Northern California, yeah, you have a ton of them there. However, a lot of digital nomads, a lot of entrepreneurs live overseas these days, especially in Southeast Asia and Latin America. Another con of living in Southeast Asia, depending on what kind of work you do online, is the time zone. The time zone difference can be a little bit upsetting, especially if you work with clients or if you work with a company that's based in the US and you have to fit into their working hours. That's when things can get complicated, because it's probably gonna mess up your sleeping hours. If you're a person that can easily work at night and you don't really have a problem with that, well, guess what? It probably won't bother you as much as someone that likes to work during the day. But the time zone is something that you can probably, it's something solvable. For instance, if you work with clients and you can probably schedule calls in the morning, let's say you work with people from the East Coast, well, you can probably get the calls in during their morning hours, which are your evening hours, because the time difference is anywhere from 11 hours to 14, 15 hours, depending on the time of the year. But you can probably find a workaround. Another big plus of living in Southeast Asia are the dating opportunities. The dating opportunities are just unheard of as well, because it's very easy for a guy to meet women in Asia, because if you come from the West, they will look at you like, and they're going to be like, wow, he's so cool, he's so unique. And that's one of the great things, right? Instead of being the hunter, you turn into the hunted, which is always a good thing because you have to put in less work. It's easier to meet women in Asia than it is in the West. I'm not saying that it's not possible in the West, it certainly is. However, if you want to enjoy a great dating scene, then Southeast Asia is the place for you to be. A definite con of living in Southeast Asia is the visa situation in some countries. I know not all countries have this, pitfall, but it's difficult to find a long-term visas in certain places. For instance, like Thailand, there's the Thai Elite visa, which allows you to live in Thailand for 5 to 20 years, depending on which package you choose. However, it doesn't give you the right to work. It doesn't come with a work permit, and this is a bit of a problem, right? I know there's also like the Thai Smart visas available, but starting a company in Thailand is a little bit complicated because you need to have a Thai partner, and that person must own at least 51% of the company, and it gets kind of conflicting, But this is just Thailand, right? In the Philippines, used to be easier. You could live in the Philippines on a tourist visa. There was also a retirement visa for people over the age of 35, but not older than 50. That retirement visa has been discontinued. So visa situation wise, it's getting a little bit more difficult in Southeast Asia these days. Same also with Malaysia. Malaysia has really quadrupled the income and just the general financial requirements of the Malaysia My Second Home program, making it a lot more difficult for the average person to apply and get approved. Other countries like Indonesia, for instance, if you want to go live in Bali, Indonesia, Bali still has a 1-year business visa that's relatively easy to get, right? Not a whole lot that you need to do, not a whole lot of requirements that need to be met in order for you to obtain this visa. Vietnam, completely closed right now, but things can change. Vietnam had a few really good visa options, especially if you're from the US. You could get a 1-year business visa, and that is a visa that a lot of people took because it's easy to get. It's just a fee. I think it was like $290 or so at that time. However, right now it's also gotten a little bit more difficult. Now, if you want to live in Asia long term, one of the easiest ways to probably obtain a visa is by marrying a local person. Getting a long-term visa through investment is also a definite possibility. One of the best things, the very best things Southeast Asia has to offer is outdoor dining. Outdoor dining in Southeast Asia is just fantastic. Like, you can enjoy warm weather throughout the year. You can go to a food court, enjoy the amazing local cuisine, the tasty food, the huge variety of different international cuisines. It's all available at your fingertips if and when you live in Asia. It's one of the things that I really miss. Healthcare is a definite con in Asia, especially if you're in a more remote location. I'm not saying it's a big problem if you live in like Bangkok or Manila, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur. Those cities have pretty good healthcare available. They have pretty decent, very well-known hospitals. It's not going to be a problem in the capital cities. However, should you live very remotely, maybe there's no hospital available within a 1-hour drive. While healthcare is more affordable in Asia than it is in the Western Hemisphere, many people have trust issues when they go to a hospital in Asia, not because it's not trustworthy, but because of the language barrier. Language barrier is not a problem in a place like Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, maybe also not in Bangkok, but if you go to a hospital in Ho Chi Minh City, Phnom Penh, maybe also in Indonesia, it's probably going to be more difficult to communicate in English. Another big pro of living in Southeast Asia is the weather. Now, the weather can be a pro, can be a con, but for most remote workers, for most digital nomads, for most entrepreneurs that are moving to the region, that currently live in the region, it's not a problem because they love hot, humid climate. They don't need to wear a jacket, they don't need to wear jeans. They are totally free to show up in shorts and t-shirt all year long. It's one of the benefits that I enjoyed also, and it's something that really depends, you know, if you like the weather, if you want to be able to go to beaches all year long, then Southeast Asia is a great place. The last thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is the lack of rights that you have as a foreigner living in Southeast Asia. If we take a look at renting an apartment, it can be difficult for the landlord to return your deposit. If they know you're gonna leave, you know, already the next day after you have moved out, chances are you're not gonna get your deposit back, right? Something that can be avoided by taking precautions, by doing proper planning. However, a lot of people have had problems getting their deposits back. And that's just one thing, right? And another thing would be that in many Southeast Asian countries, a foreigner is not allowed to own land. And if you want to own a house, if you have any desire to own property, you're probably going to run into issues in the region. There are some exceptions, of course. For instance, in Singapore, a foreigner is allowed to own property. And another great example would be Malaysia. You know, if you sign up for the Malaysia My Second Home program, you are allowed to own property, but you must meet the minimum purchase amount, which is pretty high for local standards, but not that high for Western standards. But it really depends, right, on how much money you have, how much you're willing to invest. But then there's countries where, as a foreigner, it's impossible to own land. And one of those countries is Vietnam. The Philippines is another country. I mean, in the Philippines you can, I think Spanish citizens can own land in the Philippines, but that's pretty much it. In Thailand, it's partially possible, but it's a very complex setup structure. You need to have a Thai company, and you know, you cannot own 100% of the company. I mean, it's very complex, right? So it's not as straightforward as it is in the West. So a lot of people, you know, when they get familiar with all the requirements and the lack of rights that they have when purchasing property, and especially land, they usually turn around and say, okay, this is not for me. I don't want to own property in Southeast Asia. I rather own property back home. And that's totally fine. Just do whatever you're comfortable with. Which of the discussed pros and cons have you personally experienced? Are there any other pros and cons that I should have included in this video? Leave a comment below and let us know. Make sure to subscribe and turn on alerts to never miss any of my future videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, and visas. Before I let you go, I got 2 recommendations for you. Recommendation 1, I showed a video on the best countries where you can live on as little as $1,000 a month. If you want to watch this video, click on the link right here. 2, I showed another video on the most open countries in the world right now. If you want to watch this video, click on the link right here. Thank you for watching.